This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Everyone wants to have great sex. Unfortunately, few do. Who gets to decide what great is? Valeria Teles interviews Galen Fous, the author of Decoding Your Kink, Guide to Explore, Share, and Enjoy Your Wildest Sexual Desires. Galen lectures internationally at universities, grad schools, and psychology conferences on the psychological dynamics of sexual fantasy, sexual authenticity, and untangling shame, fear, and trauma from sexual desire. He is on the faculty of the Modern Sex Therapy Institute, where he offers CE-approved classes for therapists on kink and sex-positive psychology. He has a master's in transpersonal psychology from Institute of Transpersonal Psychology. Galen works with clients within a transpersonal framework that helps individuals and couples move through secrecy, shame, fear, and trauma towards honest, embodied, and confident expression of their authentic desires. He helps clients shift from compulsive, secretive, risky sexual behaviors to negotiated, consensual, ecstatic sexual engagements. Galen's latest book, Decoding Your Kink, Guide to Explore, Share, and Enjoy Your Wildest Sexual Desires, has been praised by sexual psychologists and educators as visionary, masterful, groundbreaking, cutting edge, worth its weight in diamonds, highly recommended, a must-read. He is also the author of The Sharp Edge of Love, Extreme Sex, Mythic Passion, Primal Intensity. Meet Galen at galenfous.com. Here is the interview with Galen Fous.
In your own words, who is Galen Fous?
Well, I'm a journey, I would say. And it's been on a path since I was young. I just felt compelled. First, when I was, before teenage years, I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school. So I had an aspiration to the priesthood, as they used to say, to go to seminary. And I felt called to something beyond what I was experiencing just day to day. And I went to church, I saw priests. There was also, I thought, a certain cachet of being a priest. That's kind of cool. Yeah. It wasn't just like so devoted, I think, it was, it looked cool. Probably. But the deeper part was, I've always been learning and wanting to learn about myself, about how to make the world work. What is this mystery that we are in? It's fascinating. So that would be me.
My first official question to you is about love, because I cannot disconnect sex with love. I always connect sex to love. I always did my entire life. So I have to ask you that question. What is love to you?
Love, separate from sex or not, is resonance, soulful resonance. I mean, I don't think it can be experienced alone, maybe, or this romantic love anyway, certainly can't. And so it is this finding someone that resonates with these, as we talked earlier, these deeper parts of the soul that you just feel kindred, you feel safe, you feel welcomed, invited. There's the chemistry, the joy, and maybe even the deeper than that is the ability to process when all the tumult and chaos that inevitably comes up, even when you're in love or you feel you're with your life partner. Even, this is the beginning is the love of the romance, but then it becomes the love of the process of being able to have the joy of being able to work out these difficult differences that might show up or disagreements. I think for my own experience, that has been the deepest place I felt love was in this feeling like, whatever comes up, I can work it out with this person.
You speak of the soul. You just use that word twice. You say that your work helps us to cultivate our authentic sexuality as a sacred, liberating personal experience and learn to integrate our liberated sexual being into our everyday culture, family, and spiritual life. So my question is, what is a spiritual life, or what is the soul to you?
It's personal. It's what the individual, what myself or any other individual has to find. I think I'm most compelled by what I'll call the mystical path, which is the personal relationship to the divine, whatever that is. I just call it the mystery because I have no idea what it is. But I know it's there. I'm confident it's there. And I've experienced different levels of conscious experience that just are transcendental, as you mentioned that word earlier. So the soul is the personal experience, and it is also not just an ascendant desire, as I experienced. It's also there's a descent that one can take. Actually, that's where I put soul as taking the descent. Spirit is rising to heaven, aspiring to the upward channel. But I got really fascinated with what I call the soulful channel, which was the descent, which is taking oneself down deeper into the body, into rhythm, into lust and primal instincts and the beast and our connection with nature and the rhythms of natures and the cycles of nature. This was, for me, the soulful path because it's embodied. You're really, it's about really being present in the body. I decided, no, I'm not so good at getting enlightened. I didn't get very far. So I was realized that, that's not that interesting to me to try to become enlightened. I wanted to more live my life in a fully embodied present way.
I never heard it that way, but that makes so much sense. The soul being the experience of that higher, the spirit, whatever that is. So that resonates true to me. So what would that sacred sexuality be, Galen?
Again, it's personal. It's up to the individual to define for themselves what their normal is, what their sacred is, what their spiritual is. Referring to the mystical path was, I think, all the great teachers really were talking about the mystical path. The truth is within. I and the Father are one. Kind of statements were pointing to, which some people got and it went and lived in the caves and the monasteries and really went for this personal experience, personal relationship even. But sacred sexuality, again, I think it can have those two components to the ascent, the spiritual, like the Neo-Tantra and sacred sexuality. It usually means the ascendant path, the spiritual path, the holy path, the heart path, and which left anyone who was kink oriented or had a little bit of more animal instinctual dimension to their sexuality. There was really no place for that. But it also, so I look at sacred sexuality as either direction, whatever is the right way for you to go and follow your truth and seek out the mystery that you're compelled to go find. And so sexually, it really is, sex can be this great union through the ascendant path, but it's really a circle, because you can also get the same union if you take the descent path of going into the primal nature, into the beast, into the wild, what I call the erotic wilderness. This is fascinating territory, which, just the truth is, a good percentage of people are drawn by more. So you can have both of those paths that you bring to, because I think the entryway into the primal path or the descent is through the heart. You want to be going in with your beloved, someone you trust, someone you feel connected to, someone you feel you can communicate with, someone you feel will honor your boundaries and negotiate with you about where do we want to go, or what are you open to or not, and get really clear about those things about consent. And once you get that heart-centered, I'll call it, beginning, then you can go through the threshold into that container. I think of it as ritual. So it's in a ritual container that you can take the descent and go into these darker edge, taboo, forbidden, quote unquote, inappropriate energies that are just, no one knows why, I don't think. Well, I have some theories, but there are people who are drawn to the edgier side of their sexuality, and that's their norm. That's their natural. That's where they really get these transcendent, ecstatic, mind-shattering, orgasmic experiences from going in a way to be in this power exchange, like alpha, beta, mammalian, territorial, growling, kind of hot-blooded, intensity.
Sex always came across, I always connected to love, the idea of romantic love, and also ritual. And you just mentioned the word ritual. So there is something about sex that feels like it is a ritual. We get prepared for, that's an interesting, I never thought it that way, but it is, isn't it, Galen?
Well, I think that's what I think of as conscious sexuality. It's almost inevitable that you're either consciously or unconsciously doing ritual. I think the more conscious, though, you can make the ritual, understand, with intent. Oh, here's the, one of the main elements of ritual is, the container, and the container has a threshold, and there's a way you can enter the container or what you leave behind before you enter the container, and then the ambience of the container. Then the ambience is all about sensorial activation. So, the aromas, the lighting, the textures, the colors, so you can really consciously and really refine and home in, again, back to your personal ambience. Oh, yeah, this is not just this room. I want this color, I want this lighting, this music. And then you enter that container, and that's a enlivened container, and it's enlivening you when you enter it. So in other words, all of your senses are coming alive. That's the intention of creating the ambience in the ritual container.
So you're fully present, right?
Yeah, and that enlivenedness is presence. You're activating all your senses in your body. You are coming to presence.
What do you think is the purpose of the human experience?
Well, I don't know if a human can know that. It's really beyond comprehension. Why did we get put here?
Right.
But from the personal experience, though, we seem to have developed, or many people do anyway, clearly, a sense of mission, a sense of purpose, some knowing you have, like that aspiration to the priesthood I mentioned, just something in you that knows you're not taking, as Joseph Campbell said, the right-hand path. This is the left-hand path, the hero's journey. And this seems to be the purpose. Why, I don't really have a clue. I can tell for personally me why I want to learn these things. I want to feel these things. I want to shed my fears and my shames and my terrible judgments interiorly that I can carry with me. So it seems like we are here. And also, I'd say then also for that, there's a category of people that are here to be in service, that just naturally aspire to that. It's not, selfishness isn't getting them off. but the service is really hitting home to the heart, and the feeling of the joy of being is in those paths.
What is the meaning of freedom to you? What is to be free?
I think it's an ideal that there's no perfection in, but I think it weaves into like human nature and therefore human rights to be able to speak your truth, to pursue the path that is right for you, to partner with who is right for you, to congregate with those who are your natural tribe somehow or other, and to practice the rituals that are meaningful to you.
Yeah. What are some of the greatest misconceptions about sex?
That it's a sin, that it's dirty, that it's disgusting, that animals do that, that you should be ashamed of yourself for being who you are sexually. That would be kind of my short version, I think.
Why do you think that happens? I know you mentioned earlier the religion getting in the way, but what are the obstacles to embrace sex in a more open and healthy way?
Well, it's probably one of the most complex tasks we have to undertake to integrate our sexuality into our everyday life, to embrace what's true about it, to even to explore it, because a lot of times we don't really know exactly because we've been so removed from it. So there has to be an opportunity to explore there. But I think one of the key principles to understand if you're pursuing your sexual authenticity is the idea of paradox. And in this world, the Western cultures, particularly, any culture that has a monotheistic spiritual belief or dogma system automatically divides things into good and bad, right or wrong, black or white. And so, unfortunately, in the Western cultures, the body, sex, pleasure has all been put in the evil category. And so we grow up in this with these yearnings and these natural parts of us, that come alive and are activated and are getting turned on by the stimulus in the environment. And another part of us going, "Oh, don't anybody see that? Oh, quiet, keep that hidden, keep that secret." Or you get caught and then you get shamed and traumatized, and then you really have a lot of work to do to be able to claim your sexual authenticity. So, but the truth is, it's not it's not right or wrong, good or evil. It's, I'm a very sexual man. I like the edgier taboo aspects of sex, and I ritually practice those. And I'm also a good parent and a member of my community, and I'm in service in the world, and I aspire to accomplish things and to express my creativity. So it's an and on both of those things. But we in our culture have been shamed into believing, "Oh, you're a slut. You're going to go to hell, and you're nobody's going to want you, and you're going to be ruined." And this is what I call the erotic wilderness. Before I mentioned, this is the biggest part of our sexuality that we have not explored. And it's like a wilderness area that we get to the edge of, and we're peering in and we get excited. And there's so many things there, but we know that, oh my God, if I go out there, I'll be ruined and I'll be destroyed, and bad things are going to happen and no one will want me. I'll be judged and shamed more than I've already been. So that keeps people locked in with their yearning stuck in their fear. And this is a big problem because they believe they believe the monotheistic view of right or wrong, good or evil, rather than understanding, oh, I can still be who I am, this wonderful person in the world, and also be whatever I am sexually. And it's nobody's business on one hand how I am applying my truth, but then this is why I said it's complex, because most of us need a lot of personal work to work through the complexities, the traumas, the experiences that really disconnected us from our sexuality.
You wrote the book Decoding Your Kink, Guide to Explore, Share, and Enjoy Your Wildest Sexual Desires. So, two questions. How did you become a writer, and what was the inspiration to write this book?
I always wrote, just started with poetry as a teenager probably, and, was fascinated by the writers I loved reading, novelists and such, growing late teens and 20s, and just thought, man, I want to write like that. I want to be able to write like that. And so practiced and wrote and kind of failed at being a great fiction writer. But I still had, then I got into business, and I was, marketing and writing copy was, natural to me. And so I kind of kept my pencil sharp along the way. And then it finally, through my own journey, I wrote an earlier book called The Sharp Edge of Love. That was my first book. And this was half fiction, half documentary of my own experience. And I like to communicate. I love hearing good writing or reading good writing. And so it's always been something I've enjoyed doing. And this particular book, Decoding Your Kink, was kind of the culmination of my graduate school thesis and also more my mission of being able to support people in going through their own journey. I went through a tough journey to get to the place where I could embrace my sexuality and stand up with it. And so I wanted to, I had been working out techniques and ways. I was working with people as a therapist and guide through this already. And so I just felt I had accumulated enough down the path of my own journey that I could share some of that, hopefully, to inspire others and help them get some insight to untangle their own shame, fear, and trauma from their authentic sexuality.
Yeah. Talk to me for a moment about your own journey of getting there, in that sense of being sexually authentic. And also, why did you choose to become a sex-positive therapist?
It would be difficult to put my story in a nutshell, which we have here to do. But, my sexuality came alive when I was probably 5 years old. I was quite aware of it. It was a distinct persona within me that was much more mature than my 5 years old. And I kind of had a sense of that. But it's what I affectionately call the sex creature. This is a distinct psychological structure within each human being that is a distinct personality, persona, from one's everyday social persona. And mine, that's a theoretical model I work from as a sex researcher. I call it a personal erotic myth, but my pet name, you might say, is the sex creature. And as and that journeyed with me all through my life. And as I was raised Catholic and in a repressive culture, I was terrified of anybody knowing that part of me. But I was totally fascinated and enjoyed it on my own. I didn't feel ashamed about it. I was only afraid of getting caught or discovered. I really kind of relished it on my own fantasy level. And so, and this is in my research now, there's some 45% of people on a 5,000 person research project I have said that they're similarly before the age of 10, they were already sexually active, masturbating, fantasizing, exploring even. And so this is a very phenomenal reality that, we don't think of our children, of how vivid their sex life can be already. And they're totally unprepared and not put at risk because we don't have sex education and help guide them, et cetera. But that's another topic. But this is, so that carried with me through my life. I hid it through my life until I was in my late 40s. Then I decided to step into my truth and live my life authentically, which is a whole nother journey in itself. But that was the short story. And by doing that, I went through a lot of calamity, and then that put me on the path of, as they say, as a wounded healer, to be able, I understood what others are going to go through when they try to take that journey. And I knew I had some skills to help support them.
Since you mentioned children, how do you educate your own children on sexuality? Do you start at that early age, 5 or even before? Or
well, unfortunately for me, I didn't come to this place in my life till after my kids were growing up or on their own way. So I didn't have the opportunity or the understanding of how to do that. But again, it's personal. It's up to the parents to be finding their way. But the encouragement is to think about this. How can I both protect my child, and how can I also let them be honest and be able to have a normal conversation with me about sex, whatever their question might be, and really encourage their questions and really pay attention to your own judgments that might be getting triggered by what they might say. This is very important, not to project onto them something you're afraid of if they're not. And so, again, there's no perfection in how you approach this, because they might say some things that you just are like, no way, or whatever, that you have a strong reaction to. And so as a parent, you're put in a very tough position of maintaining the parental authority that's required to, protect the child ultimately. And that edge where it goes into shadow, where you are traumatizing your own child out of a fear that you haven't dealt with yet.
We're almost at the end, and I have so many other questions here for you. But let me ask you, is that your work for men only or also women?
I work with men, women, and some couples, but I'm focused more on individuals. And I'd say more men are my clients, but 60-40 maybe, in that range.
Do you offer services online?
I do what these days is called telehealth, but what I was doing well before that became a term of just, most of my clients are all over the place. So we do video call appointments or just phone appointments. And I have some appointments in person in my office in Portland, Oregon, which I'm currently in Spain at the moment. But that's how I work with people. And I do workshops and webinars and expert witnesses things, so any of those.
Talk to me, before I ask you my final questions, how do we learn to identify when we have become sexually authentic?
In some ways, that's an aspiration, not a destination.
Right.
But because it's a learning practice. It's not a static state. Yeah. You can expand and grow, and you can stay wherever you want. But usually it's a big territory, so there's lots of room to continue to deepen your authenticity. But I think the important thing is to get on the path, have an intention. Start with that. Start with having an intention. My intention is to be sexually authentic. That's like an anchor. That's a powerful statement. If someone chooses, I want to be honest about my sexuality. These are having those. Start with an intention like that. Write yourself an intention like that, and then work from there to what does that look like then. I call it the 5 keys to integrating your sexuality into your life are one, being sexually authentic, which includes being who you are, but also exploring if you're not clear. Sexually honest is number 2, of learning how to speak the truth about your sexuality to your partners, and also to know you have a right to privacy. It's nobody else's business if you don't want to speak to them about it. But at least to your closest, it's important to be honest. And then the third is empowerment and sexual embodiment. To be both embodied and empowered, they're kind of the same thing. And this is all that we talk about, all the work you can do at the body level of different movement practices and breath, and all these things are involved in that. And the fourth is understanding your sexual shadow. And these are all the ways in the past. If you're choosing now to be sexually authentic, that means, well, the rest of the decades I haven't been. So that means it's been in some sort of shadowy expression, maybe, and likely that you want to be cleaning up your act, so to speak, of, taking your sexuality out of the shadows, out of the dishonesty, out of the avoidance, out of the all the things. And then the fifth, which we already spoke to, was the one about paradox.
Recognizing what is not authenticity, it might be even more important, right, Galen, in a way. So can you give me some examples of what would that be?
Well, that dovetails back to the shadow. The things we hide or don't want others to know about us. So that means, if you're being inauthentic, that means you're covering up some the truth about yourself, and you're acting like you're something else. Right. Classic example is more in the 50s than now, like a man, a homosexual, would get married to a hetero woman and be living like a hetero man when he's sneaking off in the underworld time to time to express who he was. And that's out of a cultural condition and that's the truth still today. People are still terrified of being who they are sexually, and so they hide it and cover it up. Try to, anyway.
That creates so many other issues by doing that.
Yeah, there's an epidemic of sexual secrecy. People leading secret sex lives is an epidemic, in my judgment.
Especially with the internet.
Yeah, so clearly it's...
How sad that is, that we are not able to get out of that prison of not being ourselves because of fear of being judged. Yeah, that's really sad. So I do have a few more questions for you, but before I ask them, would you like to add anything?
Well, just reflecting on what you just said, as this idea of self-love. Yeah. This going, the path of authenticity is to really come back to loving yourself, because we don't love ourselves often. I don't love myself often, or haven't along my journey. I recognize that I haven't been loving myself even. It's very unconscious. These are very subtle energies that take some depth work to really get at. But it's typical with my clients that, they don't. There's a part of them that doesn't love them and judges them and shames them and has the power, dominates them, basically. And until they say yes to what's their truth, in a fierce way, the other part of themselves will dominate, and you'll stay stuck. And that's why people are stuck, because they're being dominated by an inner persona that has control over them.
If you knew you would die soon, meaning losing the body, would you make any change or do anything in a different way?
Eat more pizza.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There's a certain context where I can think, oh, yeah, I'm going to rule it. That means I'm, all these ambitions that I think I might do, though, let's just get on the one that I might be able to do. I might kind of hurry me up, because I have threads all over the place of different things I do and want to do and I'm trying to do. And I don't think about that I won't do them. I mean, I know I won't do them, but I still am somehow trying, for some reason, trying to do a lot of things. But if it was pulled up short, like I said, even if it was like 6 months or something, I would probably see what I could figure out. Well, what can I get done in that time?
It's a good question to reflect upon from my perspective, just to make sure we are being authentic. It goes back to that, if we are really embracing ourselves, right? And
I'm glad I've crossed the path of 70 now, and so it's a much more constant thought in my mind, or more prevalent than it's ever been before. I mean, it's right in my, in front of me.
Yeah. These days we live longer, 90, 95, 100. Yeah, so you have a long way in the human body.
Yeah, I'm kind of operating that way, whether it's true or not.
Yeah, which is good. Yeah, I love that. I'm 44 and I do that every day. Yes, because you never know, regardless of age. So, one more question. What are 3 things about life you know for sure as of this moment?
That it's personal,
Yeah.
that it's a mystery, and that I am a part of nature.
Yes, a billion times. Thank you so much for your authentic presence, the work you do, your mission, your purpose. Thank you, Galen.
It's really been a pleasure, Valerie.
Yeah, really great. Where can we find more information about you, your books, products, services, and future projects?
Yeah, well, Google Galen Foose, GalenFous, or go to, which will have all my social media and different things. But my website is one word, GalenFous.com.
I'll have that posted as well. Thank you so much again, and we'll talk soon.
Very good. Hope so.
Bye for now, Galen.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Galen Foose and his work, please visit galenfoose.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.